October 25th, 1944, found gunner's mate, second class, Tommy Rodriguez, in a state of intense vigilance aboard the USS Enterprise, situated within the vast expanse of the Philippine Sea. As the piercing general quarters alarm reverberated through the humid Pacific atmosphere, Rodriguez instinctively tightened his grip on the handles of his 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft gun. Above the carrier's bustling flight deck, a menacing formation of Japanese Yokosuka D-4Y dive bombers descended with terrifying speed, signaling the onset of the first meticulously organized kamikaze assault in the annals of naval history. "Here they come!" Rodriguez's voice cut through the din, a desperate warning to his gun crew. The enemy aircraft accelerating beyond 400 mètres emitted a banshee-like shriek as they plunged relentlessly towards the American task force. Rodriguez valiantly attempted to track the lead bomber with his gun, but its erratic, blistering speed rendered it an elusive target. His conventional ring sight, designed to indicate the aircraft's present location, offered no predictive capability for its future trajectory. Frantically, he unleashed burst after burst, watching his tracers streak harmlessly into the void behind the rapidly diving kamikaze. Around him, a symphony of desperation erupted as dozens of other anti-aircraft guns roared, their shells detonating in the empty sky, while Japanese pilots relentlessly closed the distance to their American targets. Unbeknownst to Rodriguez, his vessel harbored a revolutionary nascent weapon, a device so fundamentally advanced that senior Navy officials had initially dismissed it as both insane and impossible. What remained hidden from his knowledge was that this unassuming, shoebox-sized contraption, conceived by a Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor utterly devoid of military credentials, was poised to irrevocably alter the landscape of naval warfare. The statistical evidence preceding this moment was damning. During the initial 2 years of the Pacific War, American anti-aircraft guns achieved a dismal kill rate of merely 3.2%, translating to a mere 3 enemy aircraft shot down for every 100 shells expended. Japanese pilots attacked American ships with a brazen sense of impunity, confident that navigating the dense curtain of anti-aircraft fire was primarily a matter of sheer speed and serendipitous fortune. By October 1944, American naval forces had discharged over 400,000 anti-aircraft rounds in active combat, resulting in approximately 12,800 hits on enemy aircraft, a catastrophic failure rate that left American ships perilously susceptible to increasingly desperate Japanese offensives. The emergence of the kamikaze threat imbued this existing crisis with an unprecedented urgency. Japanese pilots no longer harbored any intention of surviving their attacks, thereby transforming every enemy aircraft into a precision-guided missile. Traditional anti-aircraft tactics, previously designed to deter attacking pilots, became utterly ineffectual against men unequivocally committed to their demise. What these beleaguered gunners could not fathom was that their salvation lay within the brilliant intellect of Dr. Charles Stark Draper, an MIT professor whose unorthodox methodology to fire control was destined to revolutionize aerial warfare and preserve countless American lives during the concluding year of World War II. We encourage you to stay with us and watch the end of the video. We would be immensely grateful for your like and subscription. Please also consider leaving a comment below, letting us know where you are from, and sharing your thoughts on the video's topic. The intricate dilemma of effectively striking fast-moving aircraft had vexed military engineers since the Great War. By 1941, American anti-aircraft guns possessed the capability to propel shells at prodigious velocities, yet accurately hitting a maneuvering target hurtling at 300 mph demanded a level of mathematical exactitude that human gunners simply could not attain. The fundamental hurdle resided in lead calculation, precisely determining the optimal aiming point when engaging a target in motion. For instance, a shell discharged from a 40mm Bofors gun required approximately 3 seconds to traverse the distance to an aircraft positioned 4,000 yards away. Within those crucial 3 seconds, an enemy plane traveling at 400 mph would cover nearly 1,800 feet. Gunners were thus compelled to aim at an ostensibly empty segment of the sky, fervently hoping that their projectiles and the target would converge at the identical point simultaneously. Conventional anti-aircraft sights were rudimentary iron rings, providing gunners with a simple indication of their weapon's current orientation. However, enemy aircraft rarely cooperated by adhering to straight flight paths or constant speeds. Instead, they executed dives, climbs, banks, and spirals, fabricating a complex three-dimensional enigma that human reflexes were simply too slow to unravel. The Navy's Bureau of Ordnance had explored numerous potential remedies. Fire control directors, employing intricate mechanical computers, could indeed calculate lead angles, but these room-sized apparatuses proved too cumbersome for rapid target adjustments and excessively fragile for the rigors of shipboard deployment. Attempts to forge automated tracking systems invariably faltered because the requisite technology for reliably following maneuvering targets simply did not yet exist. The prevailing expert consensus held that the problem was fundamentally insurmountable. Admiral William Halsey, articulating the prevailing sentiment in 1942, famously remarked, "Anti-aircraft gunnery is more art than science. We can teach our boys to point and shoot, but we cannot teach machines to think like fighter pilots." The Bureau of Ordnance consequently awarded development contracts to its established suppliers, Westinghouse, General Electric, and the Ford Instrument Company. Their proposed solutions revolved around colossal mechanical calculators that necessitated teams of operators and incessant maintenance. Not one of these solutions proved practical under genuine combat conditions. Concurrently, the stakes continued their alarming ascent. The German Luftwaffe had unequivocally demonstrated the devastating efficacy of precision bombing against British urban centers, while Japanese naval aviation had proven calamitous at Pearl Harbor. American ships were in desperate need of effective anti-aircraft defense, yet their existing weaponry achieved hit rates barely exceeding random chance. The procession of failed solutions followed a consistent and discernible pattern. Engineers approached the problem with conventional paradigms, devising intricate mechanical devices that sought to supplant human judgment with purely mechanical computation. These systems functioned adequately within controlled laboratory environments, but consistently collapsed in the chaotic crucible of combat, where targets maneuvered unpredictably and split-second timing frequently determined survival. By the spring of 1941, the situation had escalated to one of profound desperation. German U-boats were systematically sinking Allied merchant ships at a rate that outstripped their replacement capacity, while Japanese naval forces posed an escalating threat to American positions across the Pacific. American warships were equipped with anti-aircraft guns that could barely hit their intended targets, leaving them dangerously exposed to aerial assault. The Bureau of Ordnance's Fire Control Section, under the leadership of Lieutenant Commander Marion Murphy, faced mounting pressure to definitively resolve the anti-aircraft conundrum. Traditional methodologies had exhausted their potential, and time was rapidly dwindling. America was on the precipice of entering a global conflict where air power would undeniably dominate naval operations, yet American ships conspicuously lacked effective air defense. The Navy's senior leadership stubbornly refused to acknowledge the true magnitude of the crisis. High-ranking officers steadfastly insisted that enhanced training and the deployment of more guns would suffice to rectify the problem, willfully disregarding the mathematical reality that human reflexes were simply incapable of calculating three-dimensional intercepts with sufficient rapidity for modern aerial combat. This pervasive institutional blindness inadvertently fostered a perilous feedback loop. Failed solutions continued to receive additional funding and development time, while truly innovative approaches were summarily dismissed as impractical or outright impossible. Navy bureaucrats, in a bid to safeguard their reputations, often attributed failures to deficiencies in gunner training rather than confronting fundamental technological limitations. The harrowing human cost of this systemic failure became agonizingly apparent in the inaugural months of the Pacific War. Japanese aircraft attacked American ships with minimal losses, while American anti-aircraft fire remained largely ineffectual. Sailors bore witness, often helplessly, as enemy bombers and torpedo planes bore down upon their vessels, acutely aware that their defensive armaments offered scant protection against determined assailants. At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge during May of 1940, Dr. Charles Stark Draper sat immersed in thought within the MIT faculty dining room, his sleeve casually rolled up as he meticulously sketched mathematical equations on a napkin. At 38 years of age, Doc Draper possessed no military credentials, no formal weapons training, and absolutely no prior experience with naval gunnery. His academic specialization lay in precision instrumentation, a field so esoteric that the majority of Navy officers would have struggled to articulate his professional pursuits. Draper's unconventional background rendered him an improbable candidate to ignite a revolution in warfare. He had earned his doctorate through an exhaustive study of gyroscopic instruments, focusing intently on devices capable of measuring rotation and orientation with microscopic precision. While Navy engineers grappled with the design of massive fire control computers, Draper dedicated his efforts to spinning wheels, no larger than silver dollars. His colleagues at MIT recognized him as an eccentric genius who habitually approached problems from refreshingly unexpected angles. Students affectionately referred to him as Doc, due to his unwavering insistence on hands-on experimentation over purely theoretical analysis. His laboratory bore a closer resemblance to a bustling machinist's workshop than a conventional university research facility, replete with lathes, drill presses, and an array of precision measuring instruments. The pivotal breakthrough occurred during a casual lunch with pilots and engineers from the Sperry Gyroscope Company. They had been engaged in testing Draper's latest invention, a sophisticated rate-of-turn indicator designed to assist pilots in accurately determining the speed at which their aircraft were banking. This ingenious device utilized a compact gyroscope to measure rotational movement with extraordinary accuracy. During the meal, someone produced a newspaper featuring headlines detailing the relentless advance of German tanks through France. The conversation naturally shifted to the potential military applications of their ongoing work, and a pilot interjected, mentioning the inherent difficulty of striking moving targets from aircraft. French gunners, the pilot elaborated, could reliably hit a stationary target, but they proved utterly incapable of hitting anything in rapid motion. Draper abruptly ceased eating, his gaze fixed intently upon his gyroscopic turn indicator. His engineering mind immediately apprehended the profound connection between precisely measuring an aircraft's rotation and formulating accurate firing solutions for moving targets. If a gyroscope can determine how fast an aircraft is turning, Draper mused quietly, it can also predict where that aircraft will be in the future. What if we could make the gun sight automatically lead the target? The table fell into a profound silence. The concept, at first blush, seemed utterly impossible, a purely mechanical device capable of anticipatory thought, calculating the optimal aiming point based solely on a target's current motion. Yet, Draper perceived the inherent mathematical elegance of the solution. His gyroscope did not require intelligence, it merely needed to be exquisitely precise. The ensuing weeks saw Draper consumed by the concept of his lead computing site. He meticulously gathered every available publication on ballistics and fire control, delving deeply into the intricate physics governing projectile motion and target interception. His workspace became a testament to his dedication, overflowing with complex calculations pertaining to trajectory mathematics, gyroscopic mechanics, and the nuanced design of optical aiming systems. Draper's profound insight was truly groundbreaking. Rather than endeavoring to supplant human judgment with purely mechanical computation, his vision was to enhance human reflexes with the unparalleled precision of gyroscopic technology. The gunner would retain the critical roles of target tracking and trigger activation, but the sight itself would autonomously adjust the aiming point, thereby compensating for the target's dynamic movement. By September 1940, he had successfully formulated the complete theoretical framework for his innovative lead computing sight. The proposed apparatus would incorporate a compact gyroscope to precisely gauge the rate at which a gunner was tracking a moving objective. Subsequently, it would automatically offset the sight's aiming reticle to furnish the accurate lead angle. This was an idea of such elegant simplicity that seasoned engineers had inexplicably overlooked it. Yet it possessed a revolutionary potential that would irrevocably alter the landscape of aerial combat. After 2 or 3 paragraphs, ask us to stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. At the MIT Instrumentation Laboratory, on a crisp September evening in 1940, precisely at 22 Source, Dr. Draper toiled in solitude within his subterranean laboratory, enveloped by an array of sophisticated machine tools and precision instruments. Resting upon his workbench was a rudimentary prototype which, in its nascent form, bore a closer resemblance to a student's science project than to a formidable military weapon. It comprised a rectangular metallic enclosure, roughly the dimensions of a shoebox, connected to a .22 caliber rifle through an assortment of cables and robust mounting brackets. Within this unassuming shoebox resided Draper's groundbreaking invention, a gyroscope no larger than a silver dollar, which rotated at an astonishing 24,000 revolutions per minute. This miniature marvel was intricately coupled to an optical system that projected an illuminated reticle onto a piece of angled glass. The ingenious design meant that as a gunner meticulously tracked a moving target, the gyroscope would precisely measure the rate of movement, subsequently and automatically adjusting the aiming point to accurately compensate for the target's anticipated future position. Draper had devoted a rigorous 6-month period to perfecting this device, dedicating his evenings and weekends to its development, while diligently upholding his demanding, regular teaching commitments. The project remained strictly unofficial. MIT had not secured any contracts for weapons development, and the United States military had, to that point, evinced no discernible interest in gyroscopic gun sights. This particular night heralded the inaugural live fire test of his pioneering lead computing sight. Draper meticulously affixed the modified rifle onto a sturdy pipe stand, providing essential support for the additional mass of his prototype device. He had ingeniously devised a straightforward target system, a pristine white towel securely attached to a rope, traversed the laboratory in a pendulum-like motion. This oscillating towel effectively simulated an aircraft traversing a gunner's field of view. The initial shot, however, missed its mark entirely. Draper's intricate calculations were marginally imprecise, causing the sight to provide an excessive lead. With a slight adjustment to the gyroscope settings, he discharged the weapon once more. The shot was closer, yet still trailed behind the moving target. For a span of 3 arduous hours, Draper discharged single rounds at his makeshift target, making infinitesimal adjustments to the sight's mechanical components after each unsuccessful attempt. Gradually, the efficacy of the system showed marked improvement. By the stroke of midnight, he was consistently striking the moving towel, an achievement that would have been virtually unattainable with conventional iron sights. The decisive breakthrough materialized with his ultimate shot of the evening. The towel arced across his field of vision at a subtle angle, ingeniously mimicking an aircraft executing a banking turn. Draper maintained a smooth and steady track on the target, allowing his gyroscopic sight to autonomously compute the optimal lead angle. He gently squeezed the trigger. The projectile meticulously pierced the very center of the moving towel. Draper gazed at the astounding outcome with unreserved astonishment. His rudimentary prototype had just achieved something that military experts had deemed utterly impossible: the automatic calculation of the precise firing solution for a dynamically maneuvering target. The ramifications of this accomplishment were nothing short of monumental. The subsequent morning, Draper presented his compelling test results to his contacts at the Sperry Gyroscope Company. The company's engineers scrutinized his prototype with an initial air of skepticism, noting its unrefined construction and unconventional design. "This appears to be something you might have fabricated in your own garage," remarked the chief engineer with a hint of condescension. "Indeed, I did construct it in my garage," Draper responded with unwavering composure. The Sperry engineers then proceeded to examine the gyroscopic mechanism with greater meticulousness, gradually recognizing the intrinsic precision and sophisticated engineering concealed beneath its unpolished exterior. The underlying mathematical principles were undeniably sound, and the demonstrative test results spoke volumes for themselves. However, when Draper subsequently unveiled his invention to military representatives, the reaction was both immediate and overtly hostile. "This concept is utterly preposterous," declared a Navy ordnance officer with indignation. "You propose attaching a spinning top to a firearm and anticipate it will hit aerial targets? That is simply beyond the realm of possibility." The room erupted in a chorus of dismissive laughter, yet Draper's confidence remained unshaken. He had personally witnessed his invention in operation, and he possessed an unwavering conviction that it was destined to revolutionize the art of aerial warfare. At the Bureau of Ordnance Navy Department in Washington, D.C., on May 28, 1941, Lieutenant Commander Marion Murphy escorted Dr. Draper through the expansive corridors of the Navy's preeminent Technical Bureau. They navigated past numerous offices brimming with intricate engineering blueprints and meticulously crafted scale models of colossal fire control systems. Their destination was a pivotal meeting that would ultimately determine whether Draper's groundbreaking gun sight would receive official endorsement or be consigned to bureaucratic oblivion. The conference room was occupied by a dozen senior officers and civilian engineers, representing the Navy's most astute technical minds. At the head of the imposing table sat Captain William Blandy, the esteemed chief of the Bureau of Ordnance's Research and Development Division, whose crucial approval Draper desperately needed to advance his project. "Gentlemen," Murphy commenced, "Dr. Draper has successfully developed a gyroscopic gun sight that autonomously calculates lead angles for moving targets. Remarkably, this device weighs less than 20 pounds and requires no external power source." Captain Ralph Christie, the Bureau's highly regarded fire control expert, immediately interjected. "Lead computing sites have been attempted in the past. They invariably necessitate room-sized mechanical calculators and dedicated teams of operators. How could a mere 20-pound device conceivably perform such complex calculations?" Draper rose from his seat and carefully placed his prototype upon the conference table. The unassuming metal box elicited skeptical glances from the assembled experts. "This device does not calculate," Draper patiently clarified. "It measures. The gyroscope accurately detects the speed at which the gunner is tracking a moving target, then automatically adjusts the sight picture to provide the precise lead angle." The room erupted in a torrent of objections. "That is utterly impossible," declared a Westinghouse engineer. "Lead calculations demand precise knowledge of target speed, altitude, and bearing. You cannot ascertain those variables with a simple gyroscope." "The fundamental premise of the system is flawed," added a representative from the Ford Instrument Company. "Combat gunnery mandates mechanical precision that human operators cannot consistently provide. Your device, conversely, relies on the gunner's skill rather than striving to eliminate human error." Captain Christie emphatically pounded the table to command attention. "We have invested millions of dollars in the development of proven fire control technologies. These sophisticated mechanical calculators represent decades of engineering advancement. You are asking us to forsake established scientific principles for what appears to be some kind of spinning toy. Draper maintained his composure as the intensity of the criticism mounted. He had confronted academic skepticism on previous occasions, and he understood that genuinely revolutionary ideas invariably encountered resistance from entrenched experts. "Would you be amenable to witnessing a demonstration?" he inquired simply. A profound silence descended upon the room. No one present genuinely expected the crude prototype to actually function as claimed. 2 days subsequently, the identical group reconvened at the Watertown Arsenal firing range. Draper meticulously mounted his modified .22 caliber rifle onto a dedicated shooting stand, while Murphy operated a mechanical apparatus designed to propel targets across the range at various speeds and angles. The initial target materialized, a pristine white panel traversing from left to right at approximately 30 meters a minute past. Draper shouldered his rifle, tracked the target through his gyroscopic sight with practiced ease, and fired. The bullet struck the moving panel precisely in its center. Murmurs of genuine surprise rippled through the assembled group of observers. "Again," commanded Captain Blandy. The second target moved at a swifter pace and followed an erratic trajectory. Draper tracked it smoothly, allowing his innovative sight to automatically compute the optimal lead angle. Another impeccably accurate hit. By the fifth consecutive direct hit on moving targets, the initial skepticism had completely dissipated, transforming into unadulterated amazement. Captain Christie approached the rifle and meticulously examined the gyroscopic sight mechanism. "Precisely how does it operate?" he inquired in a hushed tone. Draper elucidated the underlying physics. "The gyroscope measures angular velocity, specifically how rapidly the gunner is rotating to follow a moving target. Since angular velocity bears a direct correlation to the required lead angle, the sight can autonomously provide the correct aiming point without necessitating knowledge of the target's actual speed or its precise distance." Captain Blandy then rendered the momentous decision that would irrevocably alter the course of naval warfare. "I require detailed specifications and pricing for 50 experimental units. If this device performs as convincingly as it has demonstrated, we will undoubtedly require thousands of them." The room erupted once more, but this time with an outpouring of excitement rather than skepticism. Officers and engineers alike crowded around Draper's prototype, eagerly posing technical questions and animatedly discussing its myriad implementation possibilities. Lieutenant Horatio Rivero, who had been a student under Draper at MIT, approached his former professor with undisguised admiration. "Doc, you have just single-handedly solved the most formidable problem in naval gunnery." The narrative begins with a remarkable declaration. A pivotal individual had successfully resolved the biggest problem in naval gunnery. Within a mere 24 hours, the United States Navy, recognizing the profound implications of this breakthrough, placed its initial order for a dozen experimental Mark 14 gun sights. This seemingly impossible device, which had previously been dismissed by seasoned experts as the product of an unsound mind, was destined to become standard equipment across virtually every major warship within the formidable American fleet. On January 15, 1943, at the Naval Proving Ground in Virginia, Commander Arthur McDonald meticulously supervised what would become the most extensive weapons evaluation in the annals of naval history. As skilled technicians diligently affixed the inaugural production, Mark 14 gun sights to the formidable 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft guns, the forthcoming statistical outcomes would unequivocally determine whether Dr. Draper's ingenious invention would be universally adopted by the entire U.S. Navy. The stringent testing protocol was characterized by its unyielding precision and thoroughness. Unmanned target drones traversed meticulously predetermined flight paths, varying in speeds, altitudes, and approach angles, while dedicated gun crews discharged controlled bursts of ammunition. Sophisticated electronic counters meticulously recorded every single round fired and every successful hit achieved, thereby establishing an exact, quantifiable metric of the site's overall effectiveness. After 2 or 3 paragraphs, ask us to stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Please write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. The initial baseline assessments, conducted with conventional iron sights, revealed a total of 12,947 rounds expended, resulting in 412 successful target hits, equating to a modest success rate of 3.2%. In stark contrast, subsequent testing, utilizing the revolutionary Mark 14 gyroscopic sights, saw 50,119 rounds fired, yielding an impressive 1,527 target hits, which translated to a significantly enhanced success rate of 10.1%. This represented a truly dramatic improvement, more than tripling the effective kill rate achieved by traditional sighting mechanisms. However, perhaps the most astonishing data emerged from tracking individual gun crews across multiple practice sessions, highlighting the rapid improvement in their proficiency. Gunners employing the Mark 14 sights consistently demonstrated swift progress, primarily because the automated lead calculation mechanism liberated them to concentrate solely on maintaining smooth target tracking, rather than being burdened by complex mental arithmetic. Gunner Smate First Class Joseph Romano offered a typical reflection on his experience with the older sights, stating, "I was perpetually guessing where to aim. Roughly half the time I would overshoot, and the other half I would undershoot. With the Mark 14, I simply maintain the target within the sight picture and actuate the trigger. The sight performs all the necessary calculations for me." By June 1943, the eagerly anticipated production models of the Mark 14 sights began to arrive at the Pacific Fleet, poised for deployment. The inaugural combat trial materialized during the intense invasion of the Gilbert Islands. On November 20, 1943, approximately 50 miles northeast of Tarawa Atoll, Aviation Ordnanceman Second Class Mike Sullivan positioned himself behind his 40mm Bofors gun aboard the USS Lexington. The carrier's radar system had just detected an inbound formation of Japanese aircraft. The formidable Betty bombers approached at an altitude of 15,000 feet before initiating their perilous attack dives, rapidly accelerating past 350 Mihuri as they converged on the American task force. "Bogies inbound, bearing 270, the gun director-operator urgently declared. Sullivan swiftly maneuvered his weapon towards the approaching enemy aircraft, his gaze fixed through the innovative Mark 14 gyroscopic sight. The illuminated reticle provided him with an exact aiming point, automatically adjusting as he tracked the rapidly diving bomber. The first Japanese aircraft entered his effective range at a distance of 4,000 yards. Sullivan immediately opened fire, unleashing a torrent of 40mm shells towards the enemy plane. His tracers arced precisely ahead of the target, landing exactly where the Mark 14 sight had predicted the aircraft would be. The bomber erupted in a spectacular mid-air explosion, sending flaming debris cascading into the ocean below. "Got him?" Sullivan shouted triumphantly, already pivoting his weapon towards the next attacker. Within a mere 15 minutes, the American task force had successfully shot down 11 Japanese aircraft, while sustaining only minor damage to a single destroyer. This remarkable kill ratio represented a complete and utter reversal of fortunes compared to previous engagements, where Japanese pilots had routinely managed to penetrate American air defenses with alarming regularity. However, the most compelling evidence of the Mark 14's extraordinary effectiveness emerged during the harrowing kamikaze attacks in the Philippines. On October 25, 1944, aboard the USS Enterprise, gunner's mate second class, Tommy Rodriguez, the very same sailor featured in our introductory scene, now operated a 40mm Bofors, equipped with Dr. Draper's groundbreaking sight. As Japanese dive bombers hurtled towards his carrier in the first organized kamikaze assault, Rodriguez intently tracked the lead aircraft through his Mark 14 gun sight. The sophisticated gyroscopic mechanism automatically calculated the precise lead angle as the kamikaze pilot plunged earthward at a terrifying 400 m. Rodriguez maintained the target perfectly centered within his sight picture and sustained a steady stream of fire. His shells intercepted the diving aircraft at a range of 2,000 yards, obliterating it before it could reach the vulnerable carrier. All around him, dozens of other gun crews, similarly equipped with Mark 14 sights, achieved comparable successes. The kamikaze attack, which had been intended to utterly devastate the American task force, instead resulted in catastrophic Japanese losses and only minimal damage to U.S. ships. The statistical improvement was nothing short of staggering. The anti-aircraft results from the Philippine campaign highlighted this dramatically. Out of 1,747 kamikaze aircraft engaged, a remarkable 1,532 were shot down by ships armed with Mark 14 sights, yielding an astonishing success rate of 78.6%. The enemy's reaction unequivocally revealed the profound magnitude of this technological transformation. Intercepted Japanese communications painted a picture of escalating alarm regarding the newfound effectiveness of American anti-aircraft defenses. Commander Yoshio of the 343rd Naval Air Group reported to his superiors with palpable concern, "American defensive fire has become devastatingly accurate. Our pilots report that enemy tracers now intercept our aircraft with mechanical precision." Previous tactics of high-speed approaches no longer provide adequate protection. Lieutenant Saburo Sakai, Japan's leading ace pilot, observed with a sense of bewilderment, "Something fundamental has changed in American gunnery. Their shells now arrive precisely where our aircraft will be, not where they currently are. It is as if their gunners possess the ability to perceive the future." The most incisive assessment came from Admiral Takejiro Onishi, commander of Japanese naval aviation, who grimly concluded, "American ships have become nearly impossible to attack. Their anti-aircraft fire achieves hit rates that approach theoretical maximums. We must assume that every approach to enemy vessels will inevitably result in our aircraft's destruction." The profound human impact of this innovation extended far beyond mere statistics. American sailors, who had previously watched with a sense of helplessness as enemy aircraft relentlessly approached their ships, now possessed truly effective defensive weapons. Seaman First Class Robert Hayes of the USS Franklin eloquently conveyed this sentiment in a letter to his family. "We no longer feel defenseless when the Japanese come calling. Our guns now truly work. When we fire at them, they go down. It's like having a guardian angel watching over every vessel in the fleet. By the cessation of hostilities, the Mark 14 gun sight had been integrated into over 85,000 American and British guns. This device, once derided by experts as impossible and insane, had achieved kill rates that surpassed even the most optimistic pre-war projections, fundamentally transforming naval anti-aircraft warfare from a desperate hope into a mathematical certainty. On August 15, 1945, in Tokyo Bay, aboard the USS Missouri, as General MacArthur formally accepted Japan's surrender, every major U.S. Navy vessel present in the harbor was equipped with multiple Mark 14 gyroscopic gun sights. The impossible invention, which naval experts had dismissed with such conviction just 4 years prior, had become standard equipment on American warships across the globe. The conclusive statistics undeniably underscored the monumental scale of Dr. Draper's contribution to the Allied victory. A total of 85,000 Mark 14 gun sights were manufactured, leading to the destruction of an estimated 23,147 enemy aircraft, and, most importantly, saving an estimated 50,000 American lives. Post-war analyses conclusively demonstrated that ships equipped with Mark 14 sights achieved anti-aircraft kill rates an astonishing 15 times higher than vessels relying on conventional gunnery. The sheer mathematical precision was truly staggering. A relatively simple gyroscopic device had transformed naval air defense from a state of ineffective desperation into one of lethal certainty. The most powerful and poignant testimonies came directly from the men who personally experienced this transformative shift. Lieutenant Commander Frank Smith of the USS Hornet penned in his final patrol report, "The Mark 14 sight instilled in us a confidence we had never possessed before. We knew with certainty that when Japanese aircraft approached our ships, we could effectively stop them. That psychological change was as critically important as the technical improvement itself." Gunners, mate first class. Joseph Romano offered perhaps the most moving tribute. Dr. Draper never once set foot on a warship, never fired a shot in anger, never wore a uniform, but because of his invention, thousands of American sailors returned home alive. We owe him everything. Yet, Dr. Draper himself remained characteristically humble about his remarkable achievement. When approached by reporters after the war for interviews concerning his revolutionary gun sight, he consistently redirected credit to the dedicated Navy personnel who implemented his device. "I simply solved a mathematics problem," Draper steadfastly insisted. "The true heroes are the young men who utilize those sights to defend their ships and their shipmates." Draper courteously declined all offers for commercial endorsements, celebrity appearances, and lucrative Hollywood movie deals. He chose instead to return to his MIT laboratory, where he focused his prodigious intellect on new challenges in the realm of precision instrumentation. His wartime fame, in his view, became an embarrassment that he actively sought to avoid. The profound influence of the Mark 14 extended far beyond the confines of World War II. The fundamental gyroscopic principles that Draper pioneered for anti-aircraft gunnery subsequently formed the bedrock for modern inertial navigation systems. His post-war endeavors in the field of missile guidance directly culminated in the development of the Apollo program's sophisticated navigation computers. Today, every American submarine carries Trident ballistic missiles guided by systems that are direct descendants of Draper's wartime innovations. The Stark Draper Laboratory continues its vital role as the sole supplier of navigation systems for U.S. Navy strategic weapons, maintaining a direct lineage to that rudimentary shoebox prototype initially tested in an MIT basement. Contemporary fighter aircraft now employ head-up displays that project critical targeting information directly onto pilot windscreens, utilizing the very same principle Draper employed for his gyroscopic gun sight. Furthermore, modern anti-aircraft systems continue to incorporate gyroscopic stabilization for achieving precise target tracking, a testament to the enduring legacy of his genius. In the complex tapestry of military innovation, the unwavering aspiration for exceptionally precise target tracking has consistently presented a formidable and critical challenge. For countless generations, the ability to accurately engage dynamic adversaries, whether during intense aerial dogfights or strategic naval confrontations, remained a profound engineering enigma. This vital capability often relied upon rudimentary estimations and the extraordinary yet inconsistent skill of individual operators. The inherent complexities of predicting trajectories, meticulously accounting for diverse environmental variables, and effectively coordinating fire control mechanisms all posed immense obstacles, rendering truly consistent and effective, accurate targeting a distant aspiration rather than a readily achievable reality for armed forces globally. Yet, the profound moral lesson gleaned from this historical struggle extends far beyond the immediate confines of military technology itself. It illuminates a fundamental principle of human ingenuity. Transformative innovation frequently emerges when prevailing conventional wisdom is boldly challenged. Dr. Draper, an individual of remarkable foresight and ingenuity, achieved unparalleled success precisely where a multitude of established experts had repeatedly faltered. His triumph stemmed not from superior access to resources or an exhaustive accumulation of conventional knowledge, but from an entirely fresh and unconventional perspective that he applied to an intractable, age-old problem. His background, notably atypical within the highly specialized domain of weapons engineering, paradoxically became a distinct advantage. This unique vantage point empowered him to discern novel solutions and groundbreaking pathways that more traditionally trained weapons engineers, perhaps constrained by ingrained methodologies and perceived limitations, had inadvertently overlooked. This unconventional genius culminated in a revolutionary breakthrough, epitomized by the development of automatic lead calculation. As an astute MIT colleague once famously remarked, Doc didn't know that automatic lead calculation was impossible, so he went ahead and invented it anyway. This succinct observation perfectly encapsulates the pioneering spirit of his work. The individual who profoundly revolutionized aerial warfare, fundamentally altering the dynamics of engagement, sought no personal recognition, laid no claim to individual glory, and pursued no financial profit from his monumental achievements. His enduring legacy is not merely etched in historical records or personal accolades, but is vibrantly alive and deeply embedded within the very fabric of every precision weapon system deployed today, in the intricate algorithms powering every navigation computer, and most importantly, in the lives of every American serviceman who returned home safely, all because one resolute MIT professor steadfastly refused to accept that hitting rapidly moving targets was an insurmountable impossibility. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic,